Well, hello, church family. Pastor Josh here. Again, welcome to Sunday. We're so glad that God is doing a great work in your campus. And we just wanted to share a little bit from our heart today. I have Steve Jamison, a great pastor from the Pacific Northwest, a great friend, known him for over 20, 25 years. And he and his wife are a major part of Convoy of Hope. And that's one of the passions of our church, is to reach the lost and see kids get fed and women empowered and people growing their own food and just disaster relief. And so Steve is speaking on our Victorville campus, but I thought it'd be great for him to share a little bit of his heart or what's going on in Convoy and how you can be a part of this today. So Steve, just why Convoy of Hope? What does that mean? And you're a part of this for many, many years.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be with you guys today. It's a real joy and a privilege just to link arms with everything God's doing through you and the great ministry of your churches. So Convoy is a huge thing for us. You know, I have pastored as a lead pastor for over 25, 26 years. And we're always looking for a strategic place that we can have confidence in, that we know who the people are, we know what they're accomplishing and their stewardship. And that's where Convoy, I just don't think there's anything in the world that is quite like Convoy of Hope. And what's interesting is I've known Hal Donaldson longer than there has been Convoy of Hope. And so to see what God has done is just absolutely staggering. You know, Convoy has grown more than 20% a year for over 20 years in a row. And today, out of 1.5 million nonprofits, Forbes rates it at number 27. And
that's just amazing. I think about how God's favor, and my first interaction with Convoy of Hope, some of you I've told this to, was in 1999, 2000, when I did a mission trip to Haiti, and they were giving out these bags that say Convoy of Hope on them, and Convoy of Hope had just started, and I think where it is today, and I love the fact that when I give, because I give to Convoy of Hope, that I know my money is being well spent.
That's exactly
And
right.
It's not being spent on administration. There's some, minor costs, but it's being given to the people that is most in need. I think it's a powerful thing.
Yeah, it's just, so, that's what has drawn myself and my wife. She's been on the governing board, so she knows the inside and outside of the stewardship. And year after year, Convoy also gets the highest rating for their stewardship. So that, it's solid and it's making an impact. And so when we talk about stewardship and we talk about just believing God for miracles of expansion, it's because it's personal. And that's what we're trying to do, is take that same vision personally into our heart. And you were asking why. Because of being in places like Ethiopia, we helped plant a church in Ethiopia. And yet you could go out on the streets and there would be women who they themselves have been abused and they've been abandoned, and they have their kids at night and they tie a rope around their arm and tie the other end of the rope onto their kids, so that if somebody comes up on the street and tries to steal their child, they'll at least feel the pull of the rope and there'll be a battle for that kid's life. And Convoy comes in and gives those women an opportunity to learn how to have a business. And it's manageable, it's something they can get a hold of, and it's called Women's Empowerment. And last year, 78,000 women, and there's also a girls component to this, but have received this kind of ministry. And the other thing that is amazing to me is how God has given such wisdom as to how to do things. Mm-hmm. So you have women's empowerment going on. You have feeding programs. And most of these feeding programs are linked to schools. So it's just a multiplication, it's an expansion of the outcome. So it's not all on Convoy to do everything. They're coming in and they're multiplying, and they're bringing a multiplying effect by the gospel in these areas. So these kids are getting fed who otherwise are malnutritioned. Their bodies are not growing at the level that they should. Convoy comes in, the kids, they grow, they get healthy, they're better students, and they're learning all these things in the context of even a Christian school.
Well, that's the thing, they're getting hope. I know it's Convoy of Hope, but that's what I love about this ministry, is that they're extending the hand of Jesus, but it's really about the gospel.
Absolutely.
That there's hope for their lives, there's hope for in the women and building a business, or growing their own food, the agriculture program. And I love that it's both and, right? It's not just one part, and we've seen the fruit of it.
We were talking about the multiplication effect of what happens, and then you mentioned agriculture. Agriculture is, like even seen in Kenya. Where does all this food come from? Well, this last year, Convoy has trained 49,000 farmers around the world as to how to best get the harvest out of their type of soils. I mean, it's amazing, right? It's transformational. And so now they're producing the food that then Convoy turns around and brings into the kids in the schools. And we were in these small towns in Kenya where not only are they feeding the kids now, but now they're feeding a big percentage of the town because of helping the farmers know how to really maximize their soils. And as a parent, a grandparent, you're just like, wow, thank God for Convoy and just having a heart for people on the other side of the world, and we're changing their lives.
Making a difference. So today we are calling this, a day of hope, and it's one day to feed the world. And what does that mean? And I love this concept because we take one day's wage and we give that, and it all goes to Convoy of Hope. And that's going to make a difference in people's lives here locally, internationally, as people are fed. You heard the story about the kids and clean water, agriculture, women's empowerment, disaster relief. All that happens as we give. And again, we're all in different journeys with our economics and salaries. That's why I love the fact that we all can give one day's wage. And so the challenge today is to think about, what you make a year, and it says divide that by 365, and that you're going to give that today. And as we do that, I believe that the lives are changed. And thank you so much for being generous. Our churches and our campuses are generous people, and we love giving to the Lord's work and love making a difference. So your pastor's going to come up now and talk to you more about this, how we can give today. But the challenge is one day's wage to transform lives, to make a difference across the world. So God bless you. Steve, thanks for joining with us today.
I just want to say thank you to you for your vision and your passion. And I want to thank every one of you, because you may not feel like, well, am I really making a difference? And I would just say, on behalf of all the people that we have contact with, if they were here, they would gush the world's biggest thank you to you. So I'm going to do that in their place.